My folks always liked to live big. While I was counting change to keep the lights on, they were out booking themselves a trip to some fancy beach resort. I had just sold off the car I worked nearly a decade to pay off, just so they could go sip cocktails in the sun. We needed the money more than you needed a ride, my father sneered at me. That was the last straw. I sued them. As they walked away, smug, I threw it back at them. Enjoy losing your house. I never imagined I'd be the kind of guy spilling his life story on the internet. But after everything that went down recently, I could not hold it in anymore. Either I tell this or I might actually lose my mind. I am 28 years old, working in a warehouse. I keep my head down, punch the clock, and do not get involved in gossip. My life is nothing flashy. I rent a cramped apartment, drive an old but dependable car, and most of the time my fridge looks like a museum of leftover takeout boxes. Still, I pay all my bills. That is more than my parents can honestly say. They were never truly broke. They just acted like it when it suited them. We cannot afford that, they would say when I needed notebooks or a calculator for school. Then they would turn around and treat themselves to steak dinners that same evening. Money is tight, they would complain, while planning their next cruise. They had always been like that, and looking back, I should have known better than to lean on them. The day my car vanished was when everything really fell apart. It was last Monday. I had just wrapped up another backbreaking shift at the warehouse and was ready to head home. Maybe even grab a burger on the way. I crossed the lot, fishing my keys from my pocket, but when I got to the spot, nothing. My car was gone. At first, I figured I must have parked somewhere else. My brain was fried from the shift. I walked the lot over and over, hoping it would just show up. But after a few minutes, the truth started to sink in. Somebody took it. I called the police, pacing nervously while giving them the info. It is a black 2016 Honda Civic. License plate. Before I could finish, the officer cut me off. It was not stolen, he said. It was sold. My stomach dropped. I nearly dropped the phone. What do you mean it was sold? I asked. He explained the vehicle had been legally sold by the person listed on the title. My insides twisted. There had to be a mistake. That car was mine. I paid for it. I had driven it for years. But then it hit me, I had needed a co-signer for the loan when I bought it at 20. The title was in my father's name. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Just the night before, I had left the car at my parents' house. My apartment building had put up no parking signs due to road work, so I figured it would be safe there for a night. Clearly, I was wrong. I stood there in the parking lot, heart hammering in my chest, feeling like the biggest fool on earth. I had planned to switch the title once the car was paid off, but life kept getting in the way, and to be honest, I trusted him. That trust turned out to be a joke. A coworker gave me a ride home. I sat there in the passenger seat, fists clenched, burning with anger. When I got back to my place, I found it empty. No sign of my parents. I tried calling my mother straight to voicemail. Tried my father, same thing. I opened Facebook. That is when I saw it. Photos of them grinning like movie stars at some five-star resort. My dad had his arm wrapped around my mom, frozen margaritas in hand, the pool stretching out behind them. The caption on the photo from my mom? Much-needed escape. You only live once. When they came back a week later, it was like nothing had happened. The front door creaked open and they strolled in all casual, acting like everything was normal. My dad had a deeper tan, wore a crisp new shirt, and dragged his suitcase across the floor like he was returning from a business trip. Without even glancing at me, he said, "We needed the money more than you needed that car." He might as well have been talking about borrowing a book or something. It was just sitting there. Ethan, he added, like that made it okay. You will figure something out. I stared at him, my hand gripping the armrest of the couch so tight it hurt. My voice came out low, shaking with fury. You sold my car. We did not have another choice, my mother said with a cheerful tone, setting her designer handbag on the table. It was a once-in-a-lifetime deal. All-inclusive. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Well, I am glad you had a good time, I said. Do not be so dramatic, my father muttered. He tossed his wallet onto the kitchen counter like this was just another day. Take the bus for a while. You will be fine, he said casually. My teeth were grinding together so hard it hurt. You sold the only thing I had to get to work, I said through clenched jaws. Just so you two could go sip overpriced drinks on some beach. That got his attention. He snapped his head toward me and barked, watch your mouth. We are family, Ethan, he went on, like that meant anything now. Family makes sacrifices. You do not hear us complaining when we help you with groceries. I laughed bitterly. You mean the groceries I pay for? I fired back. He waved me off like I was just being dramatic. You practically still live here anyway, he scoffed. You are always coming around. I bit the inside of my cheek so I would not explode. The truth was, the only reason I ever showed up at their house anymore was because they were still putting bills in my name and rerouting my mail to their address. They never bothered to change it, even though I moved out 3 years ago. That thought hit me and I let out a dry laugh. I could not help it. It was all just so ridiculous. For a second, my mom looked stunned, like it had finally dawned on her that I no longer lived there. I exhaled slowly and rubbed the bridge of my nose, trying to stay calm. You did not even call me, I said, my voice low. You did not ask. You did not warn me. You just sold the one thing I worked for like it was no big deal. Like none of my hard work mattered. Like I did not matter. It was only a car, my dad grumbled, clearly over the conversation. You can just buy another. And right then, something shifted in me. I did not yell. I did not argue. I just stood there for a moment, nodded, and said, yeah, I will figure it out. The next morning, once they were fully settled back from their little getaway, I decided I needed to confront them for real. I drove back to their place, my heart beating so loud it felt like it echoed in my ears. As soon as I walked through the door, my dad glanced up from the couch, already looking annoyed. Oh, look who is still sulking, he muttered. I folded my arms across my chest. We need to talk. He mirrored me, crossing his arms too, skin still glowing from the tropical sun. Are you really going to sulk all week over that car? He said, shaking his head. I stared at him. Sulk. I repeated, trying to make sense of it. Yeah, he said. You are walking around like someone cut off your arm. It is just a car, Ethan. You will get another. He gave me a smug grin, like it was all some sort of joke. I clenched my jaw again, fist balled at my sides. That car got me to work, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It made me money. Sometimes I picked up extra deliveries when my boss was short on drivers. It was extra cash. I was saving that money. I was finally getting ahead. Then I added, bitterly, but I guess you figured your vacation was more important than that. He rolled his eyes. You are blowing this way out of proportion, he mumbled. We did not need the money. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, we deserved it. My hands were clenched tight at my sides. So that's how this works now? I snapped at him. You think you can just take whatever you feel entitled to? We're family, Ethan, he said, all calm now, like I was some little kid who just didn't get it. Family's supposed to take care of each other. You think food, clothes, school, none of that came free, you know. I just stared at him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Wait, are you seriously saying I owe you just for being alive? Don't get all dramatic, he scoffed. We've done so much for you, he added. And you can't forgive us over one small thing. Just a car. I laughed, short and bitter. Right then, Mom walked into the room holding a shopping bag. Honey, you're still upset, she said gently. Look, we got you something. She reached in and pulled out a cheap wooden keychain, one of those touristy ones with a random name carved on it. Not even my name. See, she said with a smile. A little piece of paradise, just for you. And you're upset over a car. I looked at the keychain. Then I looked at them. And that's when I noticed the other bag behind her. It was fancy, shiny black with gold lettering. Louis XIII Cognac. That bottle goes for $5,500. I didn't have to ask who it was for. Uncle Martin, Dad's big brother. You bought a $5,000 bottle of booze, I said slowly. But my car wasn't worth saving? Dad chuckled. Come on, it's not the same, he said. Martin's always there for us. You mean he gives you money when you blow through yours? I snapped. His grin vanished. Mom let out a long sigh. Ethan, stop it, she said. You're acting like we stole from you. I looked them both dead in the eye, my heart pounding in my chest. You did steal from me. Dad scoffed. We're family, he repeated. We look out for each other. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep it together. My hands were shaking. When exactly have you ever looked out for me? I asked. He scowled. Oh, not this again. No, really, I said, stepping closer. Tell me one time you've actually helped me. He said nothing. Just waved it off like it didn't matter. Quit being bitter, he said. You'll get another car. That was it. That was the moment something inside me just went cold. I shook my head. You know what? I said. He smirked again. Finally. You're seeing things clearly. Yeah, I said, voice flat. I finally get it now. I looked him straight in the eye. I'm done. His smile faltered. What? I'm done being your fallback plan. I'm done covering for you when you run out of money. I'm done bailing you out after you waste your cash on nonsense and gifts for people who don't give a damn. I'm not giving you another dime. Mom's face tightened. Ethan, don't do this. No, I said, cutting her off. Figure it out on your own. I turned around and walked out, leaving them behind me. I didn't know what they were going to do, but I knew one thing for sure. Those easy days they were used to, they were over. And it did not take long for the fallout to begin. At exactly 6 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to someone hammering on my apartment door. Not knocking, pounding like the cops were coming. And I already knew exactly who it was. I dragged myself out of bed, let out a long sigh, and opened the door. There they were, Mom and Dad, standing in the hallway like they were about to deliver a verdict. Dad barreled right past me into the apartment like he still lived there. Get dressed. We need to talk, he barked. Mom came in behind him, arms crossed tight and her lips pressed into a thin line. This has gone way too far, Ethan, she said. I rubbed my temples and mumbled, You do realize it's barely even light out? Oh, sorry, Dad said, full of sarcasm. Are we interrupting your beauty sleep? He sneered at me. Funny, since we just heard you're planning to run off and leave us. I stared at them. Leave, Mom echoed with a loud sigh. You cannot just walk out on your parents, Ethan. That's not what family does. I walked into the kitchen without saying anything, filled a glass of water, and leaned my elbows on the counter. Family doesn't secretly sell each other's things either. But hey, here we are. Dad's face tightened. We needed that money. And I needed that car. I shot back, my voice sharper than I expected, but I had no interest in holding back anymore. That was not just how I got to work, I said. That car helped me earn more. My boss gives extra pay for delivery runs. I took a slow breath. And you just tossed it away like it was junk. Dad rolled his eyes, like I was being dramatic. That's enough. We're sorting this out right now, he said. You are not walking out on us. Oh yeah, I said, tilting my head. And how exactly do you plan on stopping me? We are family, Ethan, Mom said softly, slipping into that voice she always used when she was trying to guilt me. We stand by each other. You do not want to make a decision you will regret. Regret? I laughed, shaking my head. I think the only folks who will be regretting something here are you two. Dad narrowed his eyes. What's that supposed to mean? I picked up my phone, unlocked it, and pulled up my banking app. Let's talk about that car you sold. They glanced at each other. What about it? Dad said, his voice suddenly a lot less confident. I turned the screen toward them. Remember who paid every bill on it? Silence. Every single payment came out of my account, month after month. And I've got all the receipts right here. Mom's face turned pale. You see, I said, my tone going cold, the car may have been in your name legally, but it was my money that paid for it. And since you sold something that I fully paid for, without asking me first, I added with a calm smile, I can take you to court and get it all back. Dad's nostrils flared. You would not dare, he growled. I have every shred of proof I need, I said. That is when he slammed his fist down on the kitchen counter, loud and hard. You were so selfish, he yelled. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a place to live. I did not flinch. I just stared at him. You did not raise me, I said quietly. You just put up with me until I started bringing home a paycheck. Mom finally snapped out of her stunned silence. Ethan, please, she said, her voice shaky. You're not seriously going to take your own parents to court, are you? I looked right at her. I do not know, I said flatly. You did not think twice about stealing from me. So who knows what I might do now? Dad's face turned red like a fire engine. You would not dare take us to court. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Then pay me back. Silence. Mom shifted her weight, clearly nervous. Sweetheart, we can't. Why not? I asked, though I already had a pretty good idea. Dad gritted his teeth. Because the money's gone. Of course it was. Blown on some week-long vacation. Thousands of dollars, just tossed away. I shook my head, letting out a dry chuckle. You two never change. Dad stepped in closer, his voice dropping low, trying to sound threatening. You're going to let this go. You're going to drop it and forget about the money. No, I am not, I said, keeping my voice level. You either pay me back, or I take this to court and let a judge sort it out. He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Mom looked like she was about to break down. Ethan, we're your parents. And you should have acted like it, I said coldly. I grabbed my phone and keys, then turned toward the door. Where are you going? Mom called after me. To talk to a lawyer, I said over my shoulder, then walked out without another word. At that point, I thought I was done. Thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Later that night, Someone knocked on my door. Not banging, just a steady knock. I figured it would be Dad again. Or maybe Mom. But when I opened it, there stood Uncle Martin. I did not expect to see him that night. But there he was, neatly dressed, his suit freshly pressed, face stone cold and serious. I leaned against the doorframe. Let me guess, they sent you. He let out a sharp breath. They did. I moved aside. Come in. Martin stepped inside like he was walking into a boardroom. He set his expensive-looking leather briefcase down on my dining table, like we were about to go over contracts and paperwork. Then he turned to face me with that same expression he always wore at family gatherings, the look that said, I'm the responsible one here. Ethan, he started, your father's falling apart. Your mother's been in tears all evening. Did you really tell them you were going to sue? I stayed where I was, arms crossed. Yes, I meant it. He rubbed his forehead like he had a headache coming on. Jesus, over a car? I shook my head. No, Martin, not just over a car. It's about them stealing from me. About years of paying their bills while they spent like there was no tomorrow. About selling the only thing I actually owned, without so much as a heads up. He slowly nodded, like he had been expecting that answer. Look, I get it. They crossed the line, he said. But you realize they don't have the money, right? I gave him a half smile. Then they can go get jobs. Martin blinked, caught off guard, like the idea had never even occurred to him. Ethan, be reasonable. Your dad's in his 50s. Your mom hasn't worked in ages. I shrugged. Not my concern. He let out a long, annoyed sigh. You're not thinking clearly. No, I said. I'm being more clear-headed than I've ever been. Here's how it is. They either pay me back, or I take them to court. Simple as that. And before you start preaching about family loyalty, I added, know this. I've got everything. Every transaction, every bank statement, every single payment I made for that car. All of it. Documented and dated. That car was mine, no matter whose name was printed on the title. Martin stood there, rubbing the back of his neck like the weight of this whole mess had settled right on his shoulders. He sighed again, picked up his briefcase, and set it down gently on the table. Look, I know they screwed up bad, he said. I'm not asking you to forgive them. Then why are you here? I asked, arms still folded. Because if you take this to court, it'll crush them, he said, letting out another long breath. I can cover half of what they owe, but you have to drop it after that. I leaned against the counter, thinking it through. And if I say no? I asked. Then they lose everything? He nodded slightly. I smirked. Sounds about right. They made the mess. Let them clean it up. Martin clenched his jaw. He stared at me for a long moment, then finally spoke. You're not wrong. That actually caught me off guard. Your father's always been reckless with money, he said. And your mom just lets it happen. I have bailed him out more times than I care to admit. But this. He shook his head slowly. This crossed the line. I crossed my arms. So why are you trying to stop me? Because they're your parents, Ethan. Once you sue them, there's no taking it back. There's no going back to how things were. I tilted my head. Why would I ever want to go back to a family that steals from me? Martin exhaled hard and shook his head in frustration. You know your dad actually asked me for a loan, he said. I laughed. And let me guess, you said no. He gave me a tired look. Of course I did. I am not throwing money into a black hole. Then why should I? I asked. He had no answer for that. So I picked up my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward him. 3 years of payments, Martin. Every dime, straight out of my account. He glanced at it quickly, then sighed. All right. You have a real case. I get it. He looked at me. But what do you actually want? My money, I said, leaning back. And if they can't pay it? I shrugged. Then that's their problem. Martin sighed again, like the stress was eating him alive. Ethan, just hear me out. No, I cut in. You need to listen for once. They've used me for as long as I can remember. Every time they ran into money trouble, I was their first call. I was the solution to every emergency. And even when I helped, it was never enough. Now they've gone and sold the one thing that was truly mine. And you think I should just let it slide? Martin stayed quiet. I'm not their safety net anymore, I said. They crossed a line. If they did not want to face the fallout, they should not have touched what did not belong to them. Martin rubbed his face, clearly exhausted. I stood firm, arms folded. Are we done here? He picked up his briefcase and headed toward the door, mumbling under his breath. Before stepping out, he turned back around. If you go through with this, Ethan, you're not just cutting them off. The whole family will turn their backs on you. I smirked. They already did. And I shut the door behind him. The collapse. The very next day, the phone started ringing. Not just mom or dad this time, everyone. Aunt Linda. Ethan, honey, your mom told me you're trying to bankrupt them. Is that true? Cousin Gary. Dude, you're actually suing your parents? Seriously. Even grandma. Sweetheart, please don't do this. They made a mistake. But they're still your parents. I did not answer a single call. By 8 o'clock that night, the text messages came pouring in. Mom, Ethan, I'm begging you. We can work this out. Dad, if you go through with this, you're dead to us. Mom again. Please, do not destroy our lives. I stared at that last message for a while. Then I typed one short reply. You ruined your own lives when you stole from me. And I powered off my phone. A week later, my attorney sent me a message. They want to negotiate. Interested in hearing their offer? I grinned. Let's hear it. An hour later, I was sitting across from Mr. Bennett in his office. He slid a sheet of paper across the table, chuckling under his breath. This is what they're offering, he said. I picked it up and read it slowly. $500 and a heartfelt apology. I blinked. I'm sorry. What? Bennett just chuckled again. They also wanted me to sign a document saying I would never speak about it again. I let out a dry laugh. $500? They sold my car for $1,000. Bennett gave me a shrug. I guess that is what they think your pain is worth. I placed the paper back on the table. Forget it, I said. We are going to court. I will not drag you through the entire courtroom drama, but I will tell you this, it was a disaster for them. My lawyer came prepared. He brought bank statements, receipts for every payment I made, and an official letter from the loan company proving that I, not my parents, had paid off the car in full. Their defense? But we are his parents. Yeah, that does not hold up in court. The judge made a decision in less than 20 minutes. I won. Afterward, the court ordered my parents to pay me. They had to cover the full cost of the car, compensation for financial trouble, and even more money for the emotional strain they caused. The best part? They had 60 days to pay it all, or their wages would start getting garnished, and their assets could be seized. My mom gasped. They are going to take our house. My dad turned bright red with anger. This is outrageous. The judge did not blink. That is the ruling. Court is adjourned. I walked out of the courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years. My mom came running after me and grabbed my arm. Her eyes were puffy from crying and her voice shook. Ethan, please. We do not have that kind of money. This will ruin us. I pulled away from her. You should have thought about that before you took what was mine. Then my dad rushed up behind me furious. You only think about yourself. We are your parents. I turned and faced them, finally letting out everything I had held in for years. You did this to yourselves. You used me for so long. You made me feel guilty. You took my money like it was yours to take. You thought I would never fight back. But guess what? I did. And now you are the ones who have to deal with the consequences. My mom broke down in sobs. Ethan, we are going to lose the house. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing. No guilt. No sadness. Just peace. Then get jobs. And I walked away. Do I feel bad for not feeling anything? Maybe. But I do not think I am wrong. So that is the story. I came out on top. My parents? They are panicking. They went to the rest of the family for help, but no one stepped in. Uncle Martin told me they are desperate now. A part of me thought I would feel guilty. Thought maybe I would regret it. But I do not. I feel free. Does that make me a terrible person? Or was I just doing what I should have done a long time ago? You tell me. Here's the final update. It has been 3 months since the court ruling, and my parents have been hit hard. At first, they acted like the judgment was not a big deal, thinking I would back down. But that is not how the law works. Soon enough, money started coming out of their paychecks. Big chunks. Every month. Then came the real crash. They lost their house. Turns out, they had taken a loan out against it the year before so they could keep up their over-the-top lifestyle. With their paycheck shrinking and no savings left, they fell behind on the mortgage. One day, I got a message from Uncle Martin. Your parents are officially moving out. Hope you think it was worth it. I just stared at my phone and wrote back. It was. A few weeks later, my mom tried one last time. She called. I did not answer. Then the texts came. Mom, Ethan, please. We are losing everything. I do not know where we will live. Can we talk? Just a minute. Mom again. We are your parents. Do we mean nothing to you? Then came a message from Dad. I am ashamed of you. You destroyed this family. Hope you are proud. Terrible person. Touching, right? I did not reply. From what I hear, they are now living in a rundown apartment a few towns over. No more luxury trips. No more fancy dinners. No more expensive gifts for everyone but me. Even Uncle Martin stopped helping them. Most of the family cut them off once they realized how they had used everyone for money. And me? I got myself a new car. A better one, fully mine this time. I am saving for my own home now, not for someone else's bad choices. For the first time ever, I am not carrying anyone else's mistakes on my back. I feel free, and I do not regret a single thing. So, am I wrong? This is how it all ends. My parents wrecked their own lives. I just stopped protecting them from it. Call me cold if you want, but honestly, I do not care. Thank you to everyone who followed this story. I am finally moving forward, and I have never felt better. I won.